And according to these messages on my screen, we are live.
Good deal.
Good to be here with y'all fellas tonight. Y'all could have been anywhere else in the world. You decided to hang out with me.
Only place I would have been was about 30 feet that way, sitting in my chair, doing the same thing I'm doing right now. So,
Right?
happy to be here.
Hey man, I'm always ready to learn some stuff. Um, I was trying to get my tablet to work so I could show y'all a little something I've been working on. I've been trying to learn how to color a little bit, but technology is not being my friend right now. And I'm not as experienced as you two masters. So I don't have the drawing pad set up with the multiple monitors and all that good stuff.
Oh, okay.
I got the good
Oh,
old I got the good old iPad.
which
Good
is
old
an extreme item to have, I would say.
Hey, iPad
hmm
works, man. It gets it done sometimes.
Question: what version of the iPad do you have?
The one that was free at the time. Uh,
Hey, that's the best kind right there, son. I'm telling you.
I think it's like a iPad, like a 9 or something. It's a iPad Pro something. It was
But it
the
is a pro, so that in itself is really saying something.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's a Pro, and it's one of the first ones that worked with the Apple Pen, I think. So they were giving them away. Well, not giving them away, but I was in school, and it was part of the package that came with enrolling in the school. So they sent it out to me, and I was like, I need to try to use this thing. So here we are.
That is awesome, man. That's honestly that's probably about the only way I would get an iPad Pro because the iPad Pro is the only thing for my anything that I want, but they're so expensive
Right.
Mm,
that I can't bring myself to do that and get past my distaste for Apple in the process because I got a big grudge against Apple for a long time.
Terrible.
And
Just what kind of grudge? Because of the prices or because of uh,
because of the prices, the price gouging, the monopoly on everything, like for the longest time, like when PCs opened up and anybody could make software for a PC and sell it to work with PC, we could sit down and make a program right now and sell it, at Best Buys and Circuit Cities all around the world back in the day, and it would work on anybody's PC. Apple would only do things that like you paid for through them that they created. They kept a stranglehold on that for so long before they started allowing other companies to make apps without, and still they have a stranglehold on everything, honestly.
Right.
But, that and just the way they run their monopoly and the way they make their stuff, like their updates will run your battery down so that you've got to buy another one. And I just, I just can't stand the way they do stuff. And for years as an artist, I always had to deal with this, this bias that somehow what I did on a PC was not as good as what other people did on a Mac because Macs were better because Macs were made for graphics. And the only, like back in the day when Macs were the only ones that had color screens and you could draw with like 16 colors, yeah, that was better than a PC for graphics. Absolutely.
Right.
And like when I was in college, the Mac, the mathematical formula that they used to display colors on screen was like a couple millionths of a second faster than the PC, algorithm for doing that. That was it. Everything else was either the same or you could get way better on a PC for way cheaper. But they had that mindset that no, Macs are better. And if you're not using that, then you're not really doing good work. and uh, big chip on my shoulder.
No, I understand. Like I was against digital for a long time
Hmm.
in life. Um, just because I was like, well, I want to be able to fill the paper. I want to be able to do this, do that. And then I was at a convention one year, and this guy had some sort of a notebook. It was a PC notebook that he was drawing on. This was early in that world outside of Cintiqs and everything. And it was cool seeing what he was doing. And he was like, it just streamlines my process. Like, I still have to do everything anybody else would do. I just have some ways that I can cut off time as far as not having to erase the same way or clean up
Oh
the
man.
same way, you know. So it made me start to look into it and start to research it and start to figure out how I could utilize it, especially in what I was doing at the time, which then led me down the road of paying more attention to Macs because I would see certain people only use Macs and other people only use PCs. I learned on PCs. I will say when I got to Macs, certain things about the interface I enjoyed more, but in our house we have both because depending on what we're doing and what the kids or myself or the wife is used to working on at the time, that's what each person grabs.
See, that's another part of the thing is I'm so ingrained in like the way PCs and Androids work
Yeah,
now that like the way they operate is second nature for me, and the different way that Mac does things is, and that's a small thing. That's something I could very easily get over. I
right,
just kind of don't want to because
right.
they've left such a bad taste in my mouth over the years.
Yeah,
And but I tell you what, man, that Apple Pencil and the iPad Pro and Procreate, and
right.
man, that even makes a hardcore anti Apple dude like me really start to look, and that'd be kind of nice. I gotta admit it. If I got it free for school, I'd be using it.
So what do you use, fish?
I've used a lot of different things from like kind of expensive to really cheap, and I mean you can do anything on any of them. Like it's really about learning how to use the tools you got. But right now I'm using a Microsoft Surface Pro, and it was like about the most powerful one almost that I could possibly get. And we invested like 2 grand in this thing, and I got it specifically for like being able to work on the road and being able to work digitally at cons and stuff and show people like I like to take a screen with me to cons now and like play videos, but I wanted to be like if I'm dead and there's absolutely nothing going on, I could be working on pages on this and I can hook it to the TV and people can see it walking by, watch me
Yeah,
draw. I figured that would help draw attention in. I got it for that. I got it for doing shows on the road, stuff like that, being able to draw when, I'm in the car waiting on my kids at soccer or whatever.
Right.
It is so handy to use that now I've basically work in my recliner all day on this thing instead of the big setup I have in here with 3 screens and, a great big drawing LCD tablet and all that stuff. Just
yeah,
being able to use my fingers to zoom in and out and being able to rotate the page and stuff, just not having to go to tools to do that is so nice.
yeah. I'm in the I used to have my last one before the school gave me this stuff was a Surface um tablet, and it's the last one that I bought for myself because of that pen, and like you said, the versatility, being able to take it anywhere that you want to. It was the
Hmm.
you know the it was the iPad and pen before the iPad and pen was really a thing. So um
Hmm.
but I didn't know, like, I wasn't learning Photoshop and how to color and stuff like that at the time. I wish I was, because that it was absolutely a good tool for that.
Yeah, I absolutely, I love it. I love it. Um, You were talking about coloring. That's what you're wanting to work on right now, right?
I just wanted to. I mean, I know we're jumping ahead of the game, because we were talking about beanbag bodies, and then we were talking about faces, and then we're talking about. I mean, we're talking about feet, and then we're talking about hands.
It's okay,
Um,
Danny. You ain't got to explain. You, hey man, you want to move fast, move fast. The lessons will always exist.
Hmm. You can always go back and learn other stuff, and like, you're going to want to know how to color, and you are doing stuff right now in your comic books, in your business, that need an understanding of color and whatnot. So working on that while you work on everything else is not a bad idea.
Nope.
I just like to have a baseline understanding of what I'm asking people to like, just in general in life. Like, most of this stuff I'm gonna try to hire somebody to do, but I want to at least be able to, like, I want to be able to what do you call it? Not letter, but I want to do flat. Like, I like doing flats for people sometimes. Like the last project that I did,
Hmm.
I was able to kind of, speed up the process a little bit by doing flats. I like doing lettering. Lettering is one of my favorite things to do in comics, but that's one of the ones that I kind of yo, every time your boy David cannot help cannot help it. He sent me a personal text message saying that beanbag bodies, I'm describing myself. Just mean, just because tomorrow is the U.S. Marine Corps' birthday, I'm not gonna get on them. I know how the Marines are. Um, but yeah, I just like to have a little understanding of the processes, so, and to kind of see how different people do things. So, um, Wally,
And
you're
just knowing the dialogue and stuff helps a
yeah,
lot, because like I'll have clients ask me for stuff, but they don't know how to ask for what they want. So they're using a million different phrases to try and get to what they want. Where if they could just tell me, I want the colors more saturated, that would tell me exactly what they're wanting from
absolutely. Um, that leads to my first question, and it's a big question, but I'm gonna ask it anyway. How do you pick your colors? Like, how do you? And I'm skipping over the which tools to use, and lasso tool, and multiplier level. Go to line art versus inks. How do you pick your colors? Like, how do
me. A
you
big
choose
cheat
what colors you want to use?
a big cheat that I have is, you've seen that image going around of the old like DC Comics color guide that they had for the colorist, and it has all the characters and it has all these big blocks of colors on it.
Hmm.
That they used to back in the 80s when they were stuck to so many different colors and it was all CMYK process. This chart of colors I have here, down to these browns, all of this stuff at the top of those colors are all taken straight off of that chart with just one or two exclusions. And I know they're all old school, but I use those as a jumping off point. Like, I know, okay, I'm going to make that transparent. And let's say, okay, I know that, let me find the reference picture of this guy again just to make sure I get it kind of sort of similar to what he looked like. Okay. I know he's got a light brown hat, so I'm gonna come over here, to this medium fleshy tone, and I'm gonna use that as my starting point. And but I know that that color is too rich for his hat, so I'm gonna, desaturate it some, and then I'm gonna make it just a little bit darker. And I use those colors as the place that I jump off from. They're usually too bright, but they get me in the ballpark of where I want to be, and then it's a whole lot easier to get where I want to go than just looking at this big color slider that's got a billion opportunities for color in it. And that's a whole lot harder to try and pick out. um, so this helps me get in the zone. And like I'll generally like I want to keep all of his clothes fairly similar. So I'm not going to jump around a whole lot on the outside of the color wheel. I'm not going to make his hat brown and his jacket green and his shirt blue. I'm going to stay basically in this zone. I might go a little bit redder, a little bit more yellow, but I'll basically stay right here and just move around in this little square and pick stuff so they all work with each other and they're all kind of similar, kind of like you're picking colors off of the same strip at the paint store, and you've got light to dark on there, kind
Hmm.
of doing that. Like his jacket is a lot darker, so I'm going to come down here and make it a little bit more saturated and go way darker, and then get his jacket. And it's not the same color as his hat, but they kind of work together. And his
So,
shirt's gray.
okay, you use, and this is again, I don't have super experience, but because I'm looking at what you're doing, and I've seen other people do it this way. So you are, what are you using? Are you using Photoshop or are you using Clip Paint, Clip
I'm using
Studio?
Clip Studio. I
Okay, so
absolutely love it, dude.
you have, so basically what I just saw you do is you had already put down a layer of that gray color, right?
Mhm.
And then you
I'm
use,
basically flatting it right now.
yeah, yeah,
I What I did is I outlined all of him in gray and made it one solid color so I know everything's filled. And then I set the lock transparency over here on that layer. So it doesn't matter how much I try and draw colors out here, it's not
yeah.
going to do anything. It only has an effect when I come on that gray.
I
And
I I prefer coloring this way, but that's one thing that Procreate doesn't have, or I don't know how to do it on the iPad. You cannot, the flatting and coloring outside of that doesn't work the same. So that's something that Photoshop um and dang on what's the Clip
Clip
Paint
paint.
Studio are so much better with. Wally, are you in Photoshop or are you in Clip Paint?
I use both, but I use Photoshop just because I'm more, I guess, comfortable with it for colors. But I normally work in Clip Paint all day, every day.
oh yeah, I love Clip Studio Paint. It
Yeah,
is like hands down, it is the best program for drawing characters and stuff. It's just there's so many little things they put in that are just so smart, like being able to ink and vector layers and stuff. And then if I make a line that's great, but it's in the wrong place or it's the wrong thickness, I can go back and just change that and not have to start all over.
yeah, yeah. That's greatness. I need
And with
to,
my shaky hands, that comes in so handy.
if I ever have to, thankfully the place that I work and the school that I go to, I get Photoshop and the whole Adobe stuff for free. But if I ever have to start paying for this stuff more consistently, then I'll probably, because that's one of those programs that you pay for one time and you got it, right?
hmm Another
Yeah,
amazing thing, and you get all the updates, and they're constantly updating it and upgrading it, and asking like, "Hey, what would you like to see us do in this?" And they take those answers, and if enough people want X, Y, Z, they'll stick it in there. Like I wish they would put a spell checker in there. That's the one thing it doesn't have that
Hmm.
drives me up the wall because I'm
Oh,
a
you
really
so you
bad
letter
speller.
you do lettering in there too?
I do everything in here. Except I have to like lay out the lettering in like a Google document or something so that I can spell check it and then copy
Yeah.
and paste it.
Oh yeah, I do that anyway. Yeah, I think I do my lettering in Illustrator, but even though they have a spell check, I do copy everything from a Google Doc. So okay, so when you are deciding your colors, like right now, both of y'all like doing your flats, and Wally, I noticed you enjoy drawing Ninja Turtles a lot. Um, I don't know if that's I don't know if maybe you just got like a childhood, nostalgia thing going on with the turtles, but I just
I like
noticed
I like turtles, but they also sell very well.
certain
There you go.
turtles definitely sell well. Um, but like so for I notice, and I know in my job when it comes to colors, we have my day job is we have a brand. We have colors that we use predominantly, for different things. We got the VA blue, red, and the gold, right? And we use them for different things. There's a whole style guideline.
Hmm.
And with different characters, of course, you got different colors that you want to use. If you like Wally, who is that? Is that Raphael? I'm by the expression on his face. I'm gonna say it's Raphael.
Yep,
Um,
that's evil.
so you got with different characters, you got different colors. You got your Superman, you got your, depending on which version you're going with, you got your bright blues and reds. If doing Batman, you got your blacks and grays and your bright yellow. And I got my
Yeah,
eight.
but what gray are you going to use? Is it going to be a blue gray or a red gray or a yellow
That's,
gray or
that's where I
like?
was going.
Oh,
How do you decide that stuff? Is it more of a feeling with the tone of the piece that you're drawing, or is it just like a feeling that you go with?
do you got input on this, Wally? You want to give before I start talking again?
I mean, I'm enjoying the conversation. I mean, I think it depends on the mood, the piece. There's different factors, lighting. Even though I'm the worst person to come learn about lighting from, because I'll have you doing some whole other stuff where you'd be like, you don't even look at lights, do you, bro?
Okay,
Terrible.
good. Yeah, that is, man. Sometimes I pick the color, like especially when it comes to grays. Sometimes I will pick the color that like blends in with the background. Like I might take, if it's a nighttime scene of Batman and I want him to blend in, I might pick that night sky color and then come over here and really desaturate it and take it over, down to the bottom and get a very grayed down version of that blue and make that the color of his suit. And then it blends in and it looks nice. Um, if I really want him to stand out, maybe I will take the yellow or something from the neon lights in front of him and do the same thing and make that a gray color and then start working from there. Sometimes I will like be Googling and looking for, cool images that I like. And like I will see something that has a really cool gray and I will just do a little screen capture and I will pick a gray right out of that I like and
I
start from there.
I cheated with this one. So this piece that I'm doing with this Ace Blade. So we're y'all know I'm doing for people who go to conventions, artists that go to conventions. I'm doing special variant covers you know for artists to take with them because I can only do one, right? So this artist, he owns a tattoo shop. He doesn't even do conventions, but he got a tattoo shop and he wants to get into comics. So he did the inks on this, and I was like, I want to color it. So what I did to find me a nice color palette, is I went online, I went to iStock, and I was like, let me see what the Vegas City skyline looks like. Let me see what Vegas City looks like at just at sundown. So I took it, I took a picture, and I went to Adobe, the Adobe Color page, and I dropped it in there, and they gave me a good color palette. And I was like, all right, so these are going to be the basic colors that I use for my picture. And then,
Hmm.
and I already know, Ace Blade. I got Ace Blade purple. I know his basic colors. He's got the blue for his eyes. He's got the the purple, and he's got the gray pants, right? So I know what those are gonna be, but the background, I was like, let me get this blue sky. I'm gonna transition to blue sky. I'm gonna have the bright, the bright lights in the background, and then kind of that dusk to dawn, like golden brown, type color. So I was like, that's I'm gonna cheat like that. I'm gonna make it easy for myself. Um, and I'm still learning, so I'm
That's
fine.
not a bad way of going about it. And like something else that you can do, let me get an image here real quick. And
While you getting the image, Mr. Fish, Chris asked, "What is our favorite turtle?"
man, that's like asking me my favorite kid. Like it has changed over the years, but I love them all so much like family. But man, I mean, I identify a lot with Raphael, so he's always going to be up in there.
I'm a Leo
One of
guy.
those.
I'm a Leo guy. Uh, Ralph is my second, but because so many Ralph fans hate Leo, it normally turns into some sort of a bickering to some degree. But yeah, I'm definitely a Leo guy.
Well, one of those turtles is a nerd and he wears purple. So I'll just leave it at that.
Hey, you're in that rare group. There's not a ton of Donnie fans, but
Yeah,
they
yeah.
are out there. But there's not a ton
But
of.
we out there. I'll tell you what it really was for me with Donnie. I grew up in kind of like the country, like we was in the hood, but it was the country hood, like we had woods and stuff.
Oh, Mr. Finch
So
don't know. He don't know that you're from what's my man's name from Lord of the Rings?
Gandalf,
Yeah, he's from Danny's from where Gandalf is from. Like the real version of it that's in North Carolina.
whatever. It was a bad neighborhood. It was a poor neighborhood, but you know,
Grew up
I could
there.
always I could always go out and find me a bow staff, whether it was a stick that I broke off the tree, or if it was, one of my mom's brooms or broomsticks or something like that.
Or that
We
Alpha
would go
Fairy
The
that
bow
that
staff
lost
is
their
my
stick.
favorite weapon out of all of them. The nunchucks are just going to break your fingers. They're for show and not much else. You know, sword's cool, but that bow staff, man,
Bow
I
staff, man.
trained with a bow staff for so long as a kid. Man.
Chris said Donnie's his favorite too.
There we go, Chris. Yeah,
Oh,
yeah. Me and Chris have talked about that before. Donnie is the one. He's always consistent. He always gonna be there for you. And you can't beat that bow staff if you want to go
smart,
outside.
creative engineer. Like that tickles all the other sides of my personality. So like
Mhm.
he's usually my favorite. It's between him and Raph that I'm always going back and forth. Um, if you can show my screen real quick, I want to show Danny a trick that I picked up somewhere along the way uh,
Did I
for
lose your
picking
screen?
colors. No, it's down here in the corner. It's got Vegas on it.
Oh, okay, okay.
I just went and grabbed this picture of Vegas just because we were talking about it. And like, say you like the colors on this, and it could be a painting or a comic book page or whatever. Like, it could be, Frank Frazetta painting or something if you want. And like, in this one, I can go up into filters, and one of the effects I can put on it is a mosaic tile effect, which most of them have.
Mhm.
And if you increase the tile size up, you will get
Uh,
a handful of like colors to pick from, and you can take it down to like just a couple, and it'll be like okay, what's the most, depending on the program. Like when I do this in Corel Draw or Corel Photo Paint, it will take like what the most predominant colors are, and it'll start dropping it down to those tiles.
I like
um,
it.
and it is really good. It is a really good way, especially like for photos or whatever, like if I'm trying to do a caricature of you, and like your wife sent me a photo of you, I might do this just to get a good skin tone as a base tone for you.
Hmm.
Because like if I go into that photo and zoom in and try and pick a color, every little spot on your face is made up of purples and greens and blues and oranges and yellows. And I'm going to get one of these wild colors that doesn't look anything like you. But if I do this, it'll break it down into big cubes of different colors. And I can be like, oh, this would be a good skin tone. And that might be a good highlight color. And I love that trick. Absolutely love it. I share that with anybody that'll ask.
Absolutely. I
Good,
think I think
good
too.
news there.
I think too. The it's important to know your. uh, And it's weird because I was just talking to my boss about this today. I know I use Adobe in my job. I do graphic design, so the software that I know the best is Adobe Illustrator, right? I
Hmm.
even tried to color some stuff in Illustrator, and because I know the tools, it was easier for me to do. But it's not the software to use to
Yeah,
color.
it's definitely not the easiest. I mean, it's not the
It's not the easiest way to go about it, but when
right.
you know
Yeah,
it the best, that
right. Yeah.
Helps a lot.
Um, but how do you deal with like when like recently Adobe, updated their platform, so now when they're at their 2023 thing, the whole layout is different than it was 2 weeks ago. So now I gotta relearn where stuff is. I still know what the tools are, but now I just gotta find where my
That's the thing
pathfinder
that
tool
bugs
is.
me so much when people are like, "Oh, you don't use Photoshop?" And they look at me like I'm some kind of troglodyte that doesn't know how to use graphic software. And I'm like, "I absolutely know how to do it. The only real difference between Clip Studio, Corel Photo Paint, any of the off-brand stuff that you could get out there and Photoshop, the only real difference in them is where the tools are in the menus, what the icon looks like, and like sometimes what it's called. Every once in a while, they'll have a different name for the same kind of effect. But
Hmm.
other than that, the programs are the same. You
Yeah.
know, like that's like saying, oh, well, I need to hire a carpenter to build a house, but we only use DeWalt tools, and this on your resume says you use Ryobi tools. I just don't think you'll be able to use the power drills that we have. They're not even the same color.
Right.
That's freaking stupid. I
Right.
mean, maybe how you switch from forward to reverse is different. Maybe the battery clicks in different. I can figure that out in 2 seconds. Like,
Yeah.
otherwise it's pull the trigger and drill a hole.
Right.
I
Yeah.
don't know. They're not the same color. I don't think you can do it. We need to find somebody that knows how to use yellow tools. Like, it's, oh, it drives me nuts. But
We only use what's cheapest, what's on sale in my house. Those are the tools that I buy. What's on sale. Um, Wally, I noticed. So I most of the time when I work with Wally, I get him to do pencils and inks, and then I have somebody else color. But Wally has a unique approach to, like he said, to lighting and to colors and stuff like that. Do you?
That's a kind word. Unique.
No, I'm just using your word. I how do you decide where your shadows go in your in your different textures and stuff? Because I know in
Uh,
your art you use filters and you put you know you have a different way of going about it. I'll just say
mhm.
that.
um, I have already been thinking about where the light source is since I started the pencils, because like the way I draw it and the way I ink it and where I put my blacks and things like that is all based on like where the light source is and how bright is it in here, how dark is it. And usually, because I do everything myself, I'm already thinking about the colors when I'm doing the artwork. And I have a rule that I picked up from the DC Comics Guide to Inking, and it is, if you ever finish your one stage of the job and you are depending on another stage for the book to make sense, you failed at your job. So like if they can't look at the pencils and understand the story without an inker fixing it, you failed as a penciler. If you can't look at the inked drawings and know what's going on and have a clear, fun time reading the story without colors, then you failed as an inker. If you need those colors to help separate things so you can tell where people are and where the walls are because you just got freaking lines everywhere, then you failed. And so I try and make sure that my inks look good on their own and you can read the book and it's clear and it's not confusing. It's very important to me. But I also I do enjoy the colors now. I used to hate it, and I like it now. And so I do try and like sometimes I'll leave a lot of things for the colors, like a lot of the extra accents or lighting or shadows to be in the way that I color it sometimes, and not just all in big blacks everywhere, because I can be more subtle in the colors. But I'm thinking that through the whole time, and it's so important that you have like a light source figured out. And like number one tool for anybody that is watching this thing right now that wants to color comics, is coloring comics, is learning, is practicing, whatever. Learn to color flat first. Like learn to be able to color a nice looking image that looks cool in just flat colors. If you can't do it in flat colors, you don't need to be moving on to the airbrush and the special effects and the screen glows and the multiply layers and stuff. You need to leave all the fancy stuff alone until you can figure out how to color something flat first. Because there's
I
so many people
feel like you're
that
talking
just
to
drives me nuts. Like, okay, I'll show you what they do. And this is what, oh, it drives me up the flipping wall. Okay, I'm just gonna make this my color right now. They love getting their airbrush, and I've changed everything around so I can make it big enough to see, and now I don't know where all my tools are. Hold on, let me move this and move this. So, okay, so all right, they'll get their airbrush and they're like, okay, yeah, we got shadows. Okay, and then we're going to come over here and we're going to put some highlights in. And there we go, man. Yeah, we've got some over here and some over here and some over here and some over here. Yeah,
Picasso.
let's put them there over here, and you know what? We need more shadows. Someone put one there and here, and yeah, man, I love that airbrush. All right, man, we're done.
The
I
airbrush.
see. I get so many books from Kickstarter that look like this.
I'd send it back.
Drives me up the freaking wall. Like, yeah, I know your favorite artist loves using airbrush on everything, and maybe they even use it as a crutch. But you have to learn how to walk before you can start using something as a crutch. And if you don't know how to color first, like if you can't make a nice looking page without all the fancy effects, you don't need to be using the fancy effects yet. You need to like really get a hang of like how do I make this look cool? How do I make it look like what I want before I start using all the special effects that you don't really know how to use yet and you don't know why they're using it where they're using it.
Right. Right.
I think that 10,000 hours thing is absolutely a and you want to you want to learn shortcuts because you want to be good at something as quickly as possible,
Oh
but
yeah.
that the time that you take to learn is absolutely worth it. And
And
I wish I could go into the matrix and just plug it into my brain, but
and there are some things that will make it look easy quick and and are cool, but you need to understand why you're using them and where. Like like let's say shadows for instance. Like I always do my shadows in a multiply layer just because I like the way the multiply layer has the effect on the colors, and whatever color I pick, it will darken all the colors underneath it by that color. So
Yep.
like I can have all my shadows be consistent in a room if I want, or I can pick colors, shadow colors for the skin and shadow colors for the shirt if I want. But most of the time I will just pick one color that is the shadow color and one color that's the highlight because,
what do you mean by that? Go back. You said I do all of my shadows in a multiply layer.
yeah,
You
like
talking
over
about
here on the side of my screen, I my color layer is down here. All right. Up above it, this layer with the purple on it, which is another thing I love about Clip Studio. I can color code the layers. I don't have to type in shadows and then read all these little words and find it. I can just click this little button here and make it whatever color I want. I always make my shadow layers purple. So if there's 50 layers, I can find all the layers that are shadow. And all my layers that are inks, I always make black.
can you
So
show the
that I know
difference?
that's
Can you show the difference? And so, okay, now I know there's different ways to do this, of course, but if you're doing shadows, some people might just say, "Hey, let's take 50% uh, black at 50% opacity, and do all my shadows this way." And some people
mhm.
say, "Oh, okay, I need a less saturated um version of this color, or I need a a darker, I need a plum for this shadow, or the light in this room is orange, so the shadow is going to be this color. Is there is there a right way to do it?
There's absolutely, like, right ways to do it, and you can get deep into color theory and get a lot further than I ever understood. And like, and like when I was painting murals, for instance, like I had to actually mix paint colors to get the color I want to put on the wall.
Mhm.
This is a whole lot easier to get a good effect fast. Now, like I put just a regular layer here, and I will show you like uh, if I make that airbrush black and where is okay, my brush density is 36, but so we'll see how that looks. Okay, I can just come down and do that, and that's what I get. Let me do one thing here. I'm going to select. I set my flat colors as my reference layer, so I can click on it and it'll select everything of whatever color I clicked on. I clicked on the background, so it'll mask everything off. And then I'm going to go on that layer and I'm going to mask that selection off. So now it'll only paint inside him. Okay. So that is, like 36% black over everything. And it has darkened everything. That could work as shadows. And this is already a pretty dark image. So that's kind of tough to go by. Um, Now, what a multiply layer will do is whatever color you pick, like right now I've got a purple picked and I come across that on the multiply layer, it darkens everything like I've added some of that purple to it, sort of. Like it darkens everything by that purple, and you can just keep going and it will make it darker and darker, like you've added more and more purple to it, if that's the color that you want your shadows. And sometimes actually I do use a grayish purple for that. Um, you can do blues. And, like if it's nighttime and I want the shadows to be blue, that will darken everything by blue. And let me see here. I'm going to make another layer and I'm going to change some of these colors just so we've got, so we can see more of the effect that it's having. All right, so I'm gonna make his jacket yellow. I'm gonna do exactly what I said I wasn't gonna do, and make his shirt blue. And whoops, cancel. Undo my selection, and then I'm gonna lighten his skin down some so we can see the effects a little bit more. And let's see, I'll make his hat
Hey, that's the guy from the Andy Griffith Show,
pink,
Don Knotts.
kind of. So now you can see a little bit more the effect that it had in the yellow and the brown of his skin and the pink of the hat all had a different effect with that blue. Um, and then let me delete that. And you know, we can use a brown and come in and it will, darken everything by that brown if that's what we want to use for our shadows. And I really like that for doing my shadows. And I have a couple of colors in here that I specifically use like for my shadows a lot, like this bluish gray I
Can,
use a lot for generic shadows, and I like that effect. And you get different colors on everything instead of just adding black over it,
can you do a selection inside of your mask though? Like if
Oh,
you
absolutely.
got that set as a reference layer, you can do a selection
That's-
in that layer to only shadow.
Oh yeah. I'll show you here. Let me see. I'm just trying to think through what I'm doing here. Like,
I,
um,
I'm just trying to convince myself to go ahead and buy Clip Paint Studio. That's all I'm trying to do.
Like,
Clip paint's
most of
worth it.
this dude's face is in the dark
What's that?
anyway.
What's that, Wally?
I said clip paint is definitely worth it.
Oh man, and sometimes it goes on sale so often. And like I got my first basic version of the just, the basic Clip Studio paint for like 36, $40, something like that.
Mm.
Like it goes on sale so often it is ridiculous. And the base version has everything you would want. I always kind of say it has all of the bells and most of the whistles. So I've selected that, and now I'm gonna come by with a big airbrush, and you know, boom, you've got a nice shadow under his hat. And I want to shadow his jacket and his shirt, so I went on select color gamut, and I have which will just select everything of whatever color you pick on, which is why we use flats, because everywhere his jacket is will be this same bright yellow on the page, and everywhere his shirt is will be the same blue, and everywhere his hat is will be the same pink.
Mm.
Even though those aren't the colors I want them to be in the end, it makes them very easy to select and very easy to tell apart from each other. So I have my error of margin set to 1, so it's like this color and nothing else, which is an important reason that you don't have anti-aliasing turned on your flats, or all those little edges will be blended and you'll never be able to select all those little blended colors. And so I just selected his shirt and his jacket, and now that's all selected. And I'm going to click OK. And then I'm going to come in. Now that I've got all of that selected, I'm going to deselect an area for where his hat is leaving a shadow, and I'm going to deselect everything else. So now it's just got that area selected. And then I can come in with my shadow again,
How
and
y'all? How do you even think
boom.
about?
And that's
How?
the other thing about using the airbrush is you should never really see the edges of the airbrush if you're going to use it, in my personal opinion. I'm going to go back a step and just do this one more time. Like I have a very large airbrush set up. It's 1,000 points. So I mean, you could even do 2,000, which is the biggest this will go, and just come by, and you get a nice gradient of light dark up here to darker down here. It makes a much better shadow that way than if I came in here, with 120.1, and I'm just over here and over here and over here and over here and over here, and I'm shadowing here and here and here. That does not look nearly as nice and as clean as coming in with just one big one and making a nice simple gradient. If you're trying to figure out how to color, that will make your stuff look so much better, so much quicker
I appreciate
than
that tip because I was
trying to use a
definitely
little
doing it
one
the
and
other way.
go in everywhere.
I was definitely doing it the other way, so I
Oh,
appreciate it.
so many people are, and it
I
breaks
want
my
y'all to
heart.
see. I'm gonna show y'all this layer. I'm gonna do something I shouldn't do and show y'all this layer. Hold on. How do I? I'm gonna show y'all. I'm gonna take these. Look at this. Y'all see this right here? This is
Mhm.
this is what I was doing with my shadows, bro. I was like, why don't they look right? Like I was trying to do the what's the tool where you the blend tool at the end. Like I was going in there with the small brush with the shadows and then trying to blend around the edges. So
Mhm.
apparently that's
Which,
definitely the wrong.
has its uses, but you get a lot better effects if you'll just select, an area and get more of a gradual fade in it with the airbrush. Like everybody's got their ways of doing things, but
Yeah.
personally I think it comes out looking a lot nicer. And this guy is very different than, like, say, doing a superhero. So I'm going to draw a quick figure, and you're going to have to forgive me if it doesn't come out looking wonderful, because this is just for talking about coloring all this weird anatomy and stuff.
Yeah. Wally, you oops, I done kicked my charger.
Hmm?
I
Hmm?
noticed you zoom in and out a lot. Does that help you see kind of like your shadows and your you like to look at the whole picture to see if it's making sense, or you just or your is your eyesight just bad?
I mean, it tries to keep my eyes good for the next 50, 60 more years, hopefully. But also, I mean, you see some people reverse their screen and do all types of different
I
things
do every time.
just so you can get a better. I mean, I guess the point is to try to get a better view of what you're doing and whatever, whatever. But yeah, definitely, if you got a screen with some sort of real estate on it, you should zoom in.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But then sometimes you get lost, or I get lost in being super close, so I need to pull back a little bit so I can just kind of analyze a little bit differently.
Your boy, I just got a notification. Your boy Rico is about to be doing the same thing we doing. He gonna be on Twitch, um, coloring.
Oh, I thought Rico was already doing that. I'm a little shocked that he ain't.
Well, I mean, I guess he's just doing it tonight. I've never, I'm not a big Twitcher. I prefer to just go on YouTube and do it and learn a tutorial. But um, I'll watch Rico. I'll watch Rico color. That dude is very talented.
Yeah, Rico's
Um,
definitely defined his own path when it comes to coloring. A path that has been mimicked by quite a few people.
yeah. Um, Absolutely, man. I appreciate y'all. Um, y'all know, y'all know. I appreciate y'all carrying the load with the actual coloring because this is one thing that I'm not good at, but I'm trying to learn. Like I said, I can do flats, but learning where to put shadows and color saturations and all that stuff, like it takes a lot of practice, and I just haven't had the hours of practice yet. So I'm gonna get there, man. I'm gonna get there.
Oh
All
yeah,
in
it's
all in
just a matter of practice.
all in due time.
I mean, we couldn't do it before we learned how to do it, and I know I sucked for a long time when I started digital. Why is it not catching that? Something's.
I don't know who Facebook user is, but I'm using Procreate. But Fish
That's
and Wally
that's
are
Mike
both.
Watson.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Um, I'm using Procreate, but Wally and Fish are using um Clip
No, I'm using Photoshop.
or Photoshop. So Fish is using Clip, Wally's
Yeah,
using Photoshop. So no matter what program you use, just ain't nothing to it but to do it. As
like there's a couple of tools that one may not have. Like I love the way the vector layers and the paint bucket tool and stuff work in Clip Studio, and it makes coloring so much faster for me. But now that I hire a flatter out, like even most of that is irrelevant for me now.
wait, did
Um,
you just draw this whole dude just now?
well, yeah,
I look down at my tablet and then look back at the screen and it's a whole human, a whole humanoid figure that just appeared out of nowhere.
dude, you act like you ain't watched me do this before.
It's
You
I
know how
still,
fast I work,
but
more so
still,
than a lot of people. Like you sat there and watched me knock that one book out in 29 hours.
yeah. I was just telling Morgan and Wally about that. We how we put together. What kind of experience that was. So that was it was solid, man.
Yeah, I mean, like I feel bad today because I only got 4 pages done today, but dang it. And that's just pencils. Like
You ought to be ashamed. You ought to be
I
ashamed of
kind of
yourself.
am. I kind of am. I got to be honest with you.
Four
I'm a little
pages in a
ashamed.
day. 4 pages in a day. For come on now, get it
I
together.
use like And for this client, like I have done entire books in 2 days, 2 or 3 days regularly. And I thought this one was going to be easier, but it's like a retro 50s style book. So like I'm constantly having to double check myself and not like overdo it on the I want to make like really dynamic poses and stuff, and I can't do that because that's not the way they did it in the books that he's wanting to reference. And I can't do this and I can't do that, and there's a whole lot of like full body shots of characters all standing around beside each other, and you know weird things because it's got to look like those old books. And so that has taken me a little longer, and it's a whole book full of characters that I've never drawn before. So I have to pencil each one of them to a much further state than I normally would have to do because, he needs to know that they all look right and that I'm getting the costumes right. And like I was drawing completely the wrong character at one time. So like I have to take it a lot further than I normally do. Um okay. Now, let's see.
Danny should holler at Mike and see if he wants to come on and draw with us one night.
Oh yeah, for sure. I sure will. Um,
See, I like having guests because then I can kind of sit back and other people can take the wheel. And I can just do something off over here and be quiet a little bit.
Mhm.
and I'm gonna ask the most random questions at the randomest time. So, um, yeah, we'll definitely get Mike in here one week. Get him in here. Mike is another one that I've seen do whole pieces, in an hour or two, and I think he's on like episode 200 of Chat and Draw or something like that. Some
Mhm.
ridiculous number of his show. So um just the consistency. Still, like, that's the one thing that I always tell people, just being consistent, and it pays off.
Okay. Now I want to tell you what I've done here. I've I made a new layer for this guy's colors, and because all these are separate things and it's not like a normal page, I went ahead and made a new layer of multiply and screen for the highlights and shadows on this guy, and I went ahead and masked off everything outside of those colors. So like if I wanted to put like bright orange highlights on it, it'll only do like
Hmm.
where's not selected. I mean, it'll only do on him. So I don't have to worry about selecting all that stuff and making sure all those lines are cleaned up, which saves me time. Now for the shadows, like you were saying, um, there's a whole lot of anatomy and stuff, to have to go around here. But if I'm doing just generic shadows coming in from roughly above, um, then I know there's going to be a shadow under his jaw there, and like the bottom edge of these muscles will be shadowed. And I like to put a little bit under that line too, just to show that that chest muscle is thick and sticks out. It's like casting a little shadow underneath it. And I'm going to select back here on this muscle and this side of the arm, and put a little bit right under here. And I'm just adding to that selection. Select off that back strap there, and I'll come right up under here, under the ribs and the beginning of the abs. Get a little bit right there for the V, and get down here. And I'm just, selecting every place that I think there will be a shadow cast, and I'm going to do a little one under his belt. And I'm going to come up here, and I'm just going to select all of this down here because it's getting more and more in the dark as we go. That's what I say.
You know, the big thing for me, and this makes sense as I see you doing it. It makes perfect sense for me. I think because as I'm watching you do this, I'm like, yo, there's no way I'm doing all of these selections at one time, even though it's clearly faster and it's clearly effective. I don't have the confidence in my selections to even keep them all, you know what I'm saying? Keep them all going at the same time. Like that's that's what's weird to me. Like
And
I'll
part
do
of
this.
that is just experience and, having done it so many times. And, this is my full time job. So, like, I'm sure you do a lot of things at work every day that would probably, blow the minds of a new guy that hasn't done your job before. Like, we get like when I worked at the gas station, I used to freaking juggle skull cans and stuff as I was working because I just was doing it full time, and I'd be running the check cashing machine and the credit card machine and taking cash and running three or four different sales at the same time
Mhm.
because I knew my job. Um, Now I'm gonna pick like my blue gray that I like for shadows, and I'm gonna pick my big airbrush, and I am going to just make, like one big gradient on it. And I'm going to get a little darker down at the bottom. And that could pass right there in a whole lot of books. Like that could pass for your shadows and you wouldn't have to go any further,
I don't even want
and
to do it no more. I don't want to. I don't
would
want
look nice and clean. And it's that comes out looking so now you can do a whole lot to that. Like you can come in with your blend tool and like blend some of the edges on the face if you want so that it's not such a harsh line. And some places I like leaving harsh lines, because it feels more like a leathery costume or something to me. And now I'm going to start doing the exact same thing for the highlights, and I'm just going to select everything that is on the top front edge that I think would get highlight. And I'm gonna get his forehead and the bridge of his nose and his nostrils, and I'm gonna get that little triangle in the cheeks and get his. That's the hard part when I get too close to that little menu bar. I'm gonna select
to.
the top of his lip and there. I want to get a little selection on that muscle and the top of his shoulders and the top edge of this one. And this one I will go back in and blend a lot more.
Them pectorals.
I'm gonna get the top edge of that. I'm gonna pick out just like the top edge of the abs there. And I'm gonna put a shine on the belt buckle. I'm gonna catch the top edge of that belt. And now granted, I'm not being super accurate, but get the muscle, this muscle, and his hands sticking out into the light there. So I'm going to catch the front edges of that. And now I'm going to come in, with a very light yellow that's right off of my um, color bar there. And I'm going to come in with the great big airbrush and make it a little bit stronger up here at the top. And now my highlights kind of gradually go down his body as, you know, sometimes I might want to put more work into it and I might want to make some things pop out more because it's shiny or this, that, or the other. But just for everyday basic, like, filling in things in the page, getting the page done and knocking them out. And like, I'm going to come back along the bottom edge of all these highlights because in my mind, the top edge can be a little sharper because that's like right where the light's hitting it and it's shiny. But I like to blend out that bottom edge, and I like to blend out the highlights on the face so it's not, doesn't look as much like clown makeup. And you can even, even get a little fancier and come in with like, transparent pen and, draw through some of those highlights to, make it look more like hair there. And
Draw through the highlights.
yeah, I put little
Oh, okay.
strands of hair in there with my brush just using transparent ink and drew through that front edge to give it the hint of there being some hair strands in there. And that could work right there.
Bro,
That
I
could
quit.
that could easily work. There's one other trick that I've started doing recently that I really like that I will show you real quickly too. I need to whoops. This doesn't work because that's not connected to this computer. All right.
I don't know if I noticed, but I've already put my stuff away because
Dude,
I
don't
should
be
have
like that.
I should
If
have
you're
waited
gonna quit
until.
drawing because of me, I ain't gonna come on here and help you no.
No, I just should have waited until season 2 for colors. Period. I should have I should have waited for season 2
Man,
or
there have been
season.
so many people that like I know that have stopped drawing because they met me, and that makes me furious. Like
You
that
ought
is
to
the
be ashamed
last thing I
of
want
yourself.
to happen.
You
Just
ought to be
because
ashamed of
like
yourself.
you're not as awesome as me doesn't mean that you don't need to keep working because you're not going to get there if you don't keep working. I had to suck for a long time before I got to where I am.
This
And
is
my
true.
stuff was way worse than yours.
This
And
is
my
true.
first digital colors in college were way worse than the coloring you were doing, man. You light years beyond me.
Hey, I'm gonna
Yeah,
get
Mr.
there.
Quick. So all this
I'm
quitting is not
motivated.
not allowed. Quitting is not allowed.
I'm motivated. Nah, I'm just again. I need to take it one step at a time. Wally told me that the first episode when I was trying to draw full figures. When we are supposed to just be drawing drawing beanbag bodies. I gotta slow
Well,
down.
see, and I'm trying to teach you the basic aspects of how these things work. Like
No, I
this might
definitely
be a
got some
little bit
cheat
more
codes.
complicated, but
I definitely
like
just got some cheat codes for sure.
the screen layer and the multiply layer will help so much. Like I really enjoy using one color highlight across the board because that makes everything blend in, makes it look more like it's in the same room. Now, if it's a very complicated room, like if we're doing a cyberpunk world and you're right underneath like a light in your little table at the bar and the people behind you are lit by blue neon signs, yeah, I'd use blue highlights back there and like yellow highlights on you in the foreground. But most of the time, like when you want everything to blend in, doing one color of shadows and one color of highlights will really help make it all tie in. You know,
Yeah,
using different colored shadows on everything can actually make it real rich, but it's also more complicated. And this is simple. Um, Now, this other trick that I've been doing lately, it's gonna look kind of complicated, but I'm just gonna highlight him all. I'm gonna make it brighter at the top, not so much at the bottom. And now I'm gonna take my little selection tool and I'm gonna go in now and basically the same thing as with the highlights before. I'm gonna select everywhere where I want those highlights to stay, and I'm gonna get
make a
the
man
top of his forehead and his nose and the little triangle on his cheeks and
make a mask selection. That makes sense.
I'm gonna go down his whole body and I'm gonna do the same thing that I did before and I know it seems complicated, but the end product comes out nice and easy and gives some really cool dramatic looks. Like it did really good when I was just doing like those 45 character drawings, um, and like had so many different characters to do that were wearing like, black leather or a lot of metal, and this worked so good on that. It was it was like a cheat code, absolutely. And on this one, I'm even selecting highlights where I know the highlight paint isn't, but when I get done with the highlights and the shadows, that will be areas where the shadow isn't. So maybe the highlight's not shining there, but it'll also keep the shadows from being there. And that's what I want right now, like on his lower legs and stuff where the highlight's not getting to. And I'm gonna select the top, put a little shine on his buckle and the top of his belt again. And like even though it's not really highlighted down here, I'm gonna put a little highlight on the top of his junk and the wrinkles on the side of his pants and the front part of his leg that the light's hitting. Okay, now I've selected all that. Now, if this was a whole flatted piece of work and I was working on the whole page that was colored, I would have selected all of him and I would have been cutting out all those areas with the negative selection. But because it's not, I just selected him and now I'm going to invert it. So now everything else is selected except those areas. I just flipped
Mm.
the selection. And now I'm going to come back with my airbrush and I'm going to make it transparent and I'm going to erase all the highlights that are outside of that area. And now I'm going to go to my multiply layer for my shadows. And this time I'm going to pick a dark brown just because. And now I'm going to come in and the same thing, my shadows are darker at the bottom and disappearing
Oh
as they
wow.
go up. And and that comes out looking really cool, really fast with
That's
very little
definitely the
effort.
way to do it.
And then, I will absolutely on these, I will go through both layers and like on the bottom edge, I will soften a lot of those edges. Like right now, I'm on the multiply layer and it doesn't look like I'm doing a whole lot right now because the screen layer is above it. So it's, making a bright highlight on top of where I'm blending it. So you can't really see it yet. But
I
I'm
like
going to
that
go ahead
method.
and blend those edges. And like down here where there isn't any uh, screen layer above it, you can see, where I'm blending it. And then I'm going to go to my screen layer and I'm going to do the same thing and blend all those edges. And now it'll be more obvious, when I blend it.
I like this method. That's pretty cool.
It works really well, really fast. And, I just started using it like when I was doing all those characters and I had so many that were wearing, like pleather and leather outfits and stuff because they're all bad guys, or they had a lot of chrome, and so I was using this effect because it, gives me good effects on that, and I realized, man, that just works so fast, and I could use it across everything, and if I want to now, I can always go in and like select this area and come back with that brown and the airbrush and make it a little bit darker right there if if he needs that to make that pop out, or if his muscles are really shining in the sunlight here, I could come back and get a smaller. Whoops, I'm using the wrong color. Doesn't work if you use the wrong color. And put more of a shine on it there, and blend down that edge a little bit. Really make it kind of pop. But like that's super fast and simple and quick, and I love it.
Mr.
Super
Quick.
solid. Hey, listen. Y'all know I'm already past my bedtime. But I I had to at least get that lesson. Um,
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
hey, listen. I need to know right now. What are we talking about next time, so I can be prepared.
Um, you should be telling me what you want to get into the next time.
I need a basic lesson next time. I don't want nothing. I don't want nothing complex. I need something basic. What is the most basic thing that you can teach somebody about art, Wallet?
Drawing straight lines.
Drawing straight lines. Hey, I want to do basic shapes. I was I almost messed up. I was gonna say perspective. No, we're not gonna do that.
Hey,
Uh,
those basic shapes and perspective is pretty easy.
basic shapes in perspective, and when and when not to use it. That's what we're going next time, Wally. We're gonna do some rectangular prisms and cylinders in but we're only doing 3-point perspective. We ain't doing that crazy 5-point perspective that you was talking about at one time. We ain't doing that.
You're gonna be very upset.
Anyway, I appreciate y'all. I'm about to go home and get in the shower and get me something to eat.
All right.
Indeed, indeed. Hey, I appreciate you, Mr. Fish, coming and helping Danny with these color lessons. Now that he has seen the truth, he realizes that he's gonna have to learn it again and again and several more times again, which is
It's all right.
the reality check
I'm
that is
still
that is
learning.
good. Yeah, we all are, which is what I keep telling Danny. You ain't got to do it all in one night.
Nah, you can't do it. I mean,
I'm trying to wake up.
nobody do it
Wake
like
up
that.
one day. I'm gonna wake up one day and have all this knowledge in my head. Um, but yeah, until next time.
Yes, and good people. Appreciate y'all that came out, hung with us. Oh, Morgan was on for a minute. What up, Morgan? Mr. Fish, appreciate you coming.
Absolutely, man. Anytime.
Anytime you want to come back, let us know because I definitely enjoy being able to just draw and color and chill a little bit. But Danny always keeps the conversation going, and that's the whole point of this. We trying to learn together, grow together, share what we know, yada yada
Hey,
yada.
that's my whole thing, man. I'm happy to share with anybody that wants to learn, and I will share every tip I've picked up, everything from how to run a business to how to draw the comics to lettering to anything I can do to help, man.
We appreciate that. Danny, closing words, brother.
Hey, be good to each other. That's all I can say.
Mr. Fish, closing words.
Have fun, keep drawing, don't stop, Danny, and nobody else. Keep going, keep going. We're all learning. We all sucked at one point. You got to suck to get better.
Indeed, my closing words are good night.